Hey folks, I'm back here behind the jungle gym or the erector set. Um, Trying to just do a little more something for you guys that have um, been looking for advice on sound. Okay, just basic sound system stuff, beginner stuff, and maybe this will straighten out your drummer as well. People are like, Scott, are you an amazing drummer dude here to teach us? No, I'm an amazing sound guy here to teach you. Okay, and how I've had to deal with drummers and drums for 40 years. Okay, I will take this drum kit back to, of course, it's electronic, and you can only hope for such an amazing thing as electronic drums. Most drummers that get out of hand these days that don't know how to take care of their shit, yeah, I'll put triggers on their drums against their better anything. I'll say either that or tell the band, pack up their shit and go home if the guy won't listen. It's just as easy as that. Okay, but for you guys starting out, drummers may not know this, but they should. So show them this video. Okay, the big thing, number one, as far as sound goes, you're like, should I really mic up the drums for every gig since they're plenty loud anyway? Yes. A definitive yes. Even most of your quote-unquote pro players that are playing at the Eagles Lodge will generally just toss a microphone inside their kick drum and call it a day. That snare needs to be heard, and it needs to be heard different than what the drummer has it tuned, because it needs to, and I will tell you why, and especially the toms. Okay, yes, every drum needs to be placed through your sound system. Again, it's not a PA. A PA, I know, it's interchangeable for most people. I write it on here because on my subject line or my title line, because generally people that don't know anything, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for PA system stuff. So that's how I find you. I will try to put PA and sound system in the same thing. Makes for a long title, but gotta try to find you guys somehow and let you find me. Drummers tune from behind their drum kit like this. They don't know jack shit about what's being heard out front. They're sitting back here boing, 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 and sitting there adjusting their shit, and they only know what it sounds like on the top of their drums. They have zero idea what it sounds like out there, and it usually sounds like total horse shit because they're not out front to hear it. There is no way around that unless somebody else jumps behind the drums and can play exactly like that drummer. It will always sound very different, just like it sounds different when somebody else plays your guitar. It will sound very different if another drum, we'll say drummer, gets behind there, because they will play nothing like your drummer. If he's using an acoustic kit, the snare and the hat and the kick will sound very different because they don't have the same feel. Okay, the thing to do when putting the whole thing in the system, and you're saying, well, the drums are too loud anyway, well, tell the sumbitch to play lighter. If he won't, fire his ass. There's lots of reasons to fire drummers. If they won't, play softer. That's a big one. Okay. Thing is, these shitty drums, or the shitty sounding drums that they only can hear from back here, will be amplified. Okay. And the reason for getting it amplified is to make these drums sound better to the audience. Even though you're not going to make them any louder per se, they're going to sound better. than what they do. Okay? Especially you guys get to play in, and the audience is going to hear the rest of your stuff, your vocals, your guitars, your bass, and so forth, out through the speakers, the front of house, or your mains. If the drums aren't in there, even though they're loud enough, they're going to sound like crap. Drums, acoustic drums, sound like shit anyway. Okay, unless they're in their bedroom playing and they think it sounds great from back here where they're sitting. If you walk in and hear the other side of it, chances are quite good they're going to sound like shit. Okay, so if you can get them into the PA and mix correctly, you're actually going to get some thump out of the bass drum where there is none. There is no thump in a bass drum, or a kick drum as it's actually called. And then you need some real snap on the snare, and you're going to need some more bottom end in the toms so that they sound like something instead of hitting oatmeal boxes, because that's the way they sound out front. It's just the nature of the beast. So you're not trying to get more volume in a situation where the volume is already there. You're just putting them in the PA system so that you have the same volume, but it's in the mix and it sounds better. Sounding better is worth miking them up every single time. And again, drummers are so flippin' lazy. Again, they're just going to try to toss one crappy microphone into their kick drum and call it a day. Okay? That's when somebody has to step in and say, cut the shit, or once again you're fired. Okay, now here's the thing you have to do as a sound person, because drummers are really, have I mentioned really bad at this? There is a thing that a lot of drummers go by where each of their toms, including their kick and their snare, are supposed to be tuned to a certain note or to a certain pitch. They can sit there and hold a guitar tuner next to the drum, keep tuning it until one tom is supposed to be an E flat. Okay? How many times are you playing an E flat? Well, pretty much all the time if you are tuned down a half step. So that's fine. But if you're tuned normal and just one drum is in E flat, of course that's going to be the only drum in E flat, but you guys are tuned to 440, so, and you guys play in E a lot, or D, that's going to sound like shit every time he hits the drum, because you are half a tone, half a step away from that, and every time he hits that tom or whatever, it's going to totally go against everything you're playing. And if that note rings out and it's not deadened and it just goes boing, you can hear it hitting this acoustic. Not with my good tuning ones. You'll hear it in a minute with my shitty tuned ones like your drummer uses. But it will just ring like a bitch and sound like total hell if that's what he's doing. Getting them to that pitch is fine if the drummer will actually take care of his drums and mute them to some degree, at least to enough of a degree that it cuts out all the bullshit where it's ringing against the tuning of other instruments. If it is a detrimental thing to the overall mix, then the drummer must sacrifice what he thinks sounds good. Okay, everybody has to do the best for the entire mix, no matter what that is. Okay, even if you think it sounds horrible, it's not the time to be all about you. It's time to make the fronts sound amazing, and if it sucks on stage to some degree to you, live with it. Well, I can't be creative in everything if it sounds like shit to me. Fuck you. Play it. Okay? Now, drummers will do this because they think it sounds good. This here is just what's called the acoustic #2 kit. And they do this on the drum module because this is the way most drummers like their shit to sound. And this is the shit that will kill a mix. Just a small thing around the toms. hear the instruments ringing because they are tuned to a certain pitch, plus they are doing this. Check it out. I know it doesn't sound specifically acoustic, but that ringing bullshit has to go away. If you mic that, your mix is horrible. Your gut's going to be shit. Then they're like, well, then don't mic it. It's still going to be shit. With these ringing against your other tuned instruments, it's killing the rest of the band. Again, fire the motherfucker. Okay, so. Sorry. So this is where back in the 70s and 80s people were putting duct tape with the bar napkin underneath it. Looks like a big band-aid. And they put it on the drum, and that becomes very tolerable. You shut it down to almost nothing. Okay? So you hit it, and then you would give it some, they want it to sound like cannons, they're toms, but they're playing little bitty toms. And I still can't understand that these days. Drummers used to have power toms, and they sounded like fucking power toms. They sound like cannons. Today drummers are using things not much deeper than these things. They're like 5 inches deep, and they want them to sound like cannons. Well, you might as well use an electronic kit then, because a 5-inch deep drum is not going to sound like a fucking cannon. So you're going to have to over-process it so much with compression and gates, just so your drum won't keep ringing. So you put that gate on there and try to gate out all that. You have to shut it up, but it's still going to be so shitty on stage and picked up by other microphones that that's still going to bleed through. So you need to deaden the drums, and then, like I said, compress them, gate them, add a ton of low end in there that your drums don't have to begin with, and reverb the shit out of them, whatever, because the drums sound like shit. Okay? Then it got to the point where they came out for women with like maxi pads with wings, so people would actually pull off the adhesive strip for the pussy pads, and they would put that on their drums, especially their floor toms, and then maybe use the smaller ones. Today it's hard to find, but you can use moon gel. The drummers, they know what it is. Usually they can just flop it on their drum heads wherever it's ringing bad. But if they could tune well the top and the bottom heads together, which totally blows most of their minds, and they'll never get it right, it's a bitch. In the 70s, they also, most drummers did not run a bottom head. They used power toms, huge drums, and they would put their Sennheiser 421s up inside the drums, where the actual sound came from. They were made out of wood, but yet you're miking a really cheap drum head over the top, like people are still doing, because that's what the drummer hears. Don't you want to hear the drum, or do you want to hear the top of the drum head on the very edge of it where it sounds its worst? No brains there, but then again, that's the way drummers do it, so it sucks to be a retarded drummer, and it sucks to be a sound person who has to try to make your Tonka toy kit sound good. Again, this is a video for sound people. Drummers, if you're pissed at this, you should be pissed at yourself. Okay? If your shit is always perfect, then that means you have actually been out and gigged a lot, and you know what is required to make your stuff sound right through sound systems of all different sizes. So again, is not acceptable. So you have to bring it down to where it is not like that. Okay? Like, this is fine. Wonderful. Nothing's ringing. You can cannon the shit out of that. It's got a slight bit of ring, but it's all it needs. That's how drums should sound. You could do that without having to put anything else on them except for turn the son of a bitches up and use good mics. Okay? And again, you're not looking for volume, you're looking to make the drum kit sound good because it is an acoustic instrument, and acoustic instruments need to be made to sound better because they don't on their own unless they're in your living room. Okay? So that is that. That's the answer to all that shit. It gets worse when you get up here into things where drummers think things sound good. This here is called the 1971 kit. Again, if you mic that, it's going to sound like shit. Okay, just a couple more just to show you drummers what sucks. Here's called old school. You got to use those 606s, just 909s, 808s. Horrible sounding drums, but at least they're not ringing. House drums. Vintage. Okay, so you're using the old Ludwig Silver Sparkle classic set. That's honestly the way they sounded. Okay, so horrible, horrible, and that's what you get to deal with. Okay, there's another one. I get a lot of drum kits that sound like this. What the fuck? That's usually the people who tune it by notes. How would you like this? When you're trying to play an acoustic tune and it's making all your shit ring and it's out of tune with your guitar, blah blah blah, it's a disaster. So again, that is that. The kit I use is that is my go-to thing. Check these things. So like that. Gotta have my Indy 500. So there you go, dudes. Again, this is for people trying to get the sound done. Drummers, hopefully somebody's going to kick your ass and show you how things should be done. Again, there was a thing called the May miking system where you actually put the microphones inside the drums. Then you actually plugged your XLR cables, your mic cords, into the drum shells. So yeah, the mic was inside where your $5,000 kit was actually being mic'd where the drum sounds come from. Instead of miking a $25 head in the very edge of your toms and you're beating the shit out of the middle of them, you don't want the sound of the edge of the toms. If you're going to put microphones at the edge, point them towards the center. If that's where you're going to get the miking technique. Sure, it can be right here at the edge where it's generally going to be, but point it towards the center. And again, you're miking a drum head instead of miking the drum. Again, a totally ridiculous idea. It was a lot better idea in the 70s when they actually put the mics at the bottom of the drum where there was one head that you tuned and you didn't have to tune it against the tuning of another head. So you had your batter head and your bottom head. They go out of tune with each other all night long, and you're constantly getting the, oh, I gotta change that, I gotta tune this, tune this, tune this. Oh, I've got, oh, between every song you're hearing him rattling here. Hang on, tune this one over here. Electronic kits don't go out of tune. So go out and get you a Roland D50 kit or something, D30 at least. Sounds better than anything else made to date. So, hope you enjoyed this and hope some of you found this to be useful because it is ungodly useful to you sound people, or you people that are just starting out in sound, to know why you're putting it in the mains and what's going to solve all this bullshit ringing stuff. And if you have to go back there and put Cotex with wings on their drums, then do it, or send them fucking packing, because they have to be done right in the best interest of your band. If they are that hard to work with and to persuade to do what's best for the band, then they don't have any of your best interests at heart to begin with. So start with a good drummer that knows his shit. You guys be groovy. Alright, and let's do this. Okay, love that shit. Herpy Trails back.